Let's go, Rider Nation.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. It's a feeling now. Get 'em high, get 'em low. 'Cause we're dealing now. Everybody's giving it all they got. 'Cause we're ready.
Welcome to the Piffles podcast, your Saskatchewan Roughriders fan podcast. If only you could see what we see when this show starts, when Greg hits that intro with Arcana Kings. I can still see what the guys are doing. They can see what I'm doing. I'm just sitting here, just jamming out, vibing out. Steve, giving the double birds to me.
No,
Mostly
it's to
Greg,
Greg
though.
because I know he's pushing the button.
What?
Always to Greg.
Before
Alex
we started,
also has access to the buttons as well.
I do, yeah.
I also have access to the buttons. I think I just don't know how they work. How does the tech guy not know how these things work?
We were just talking just before we hit record here, and Greg started off by hitting the Chris Strevler video. You guys know the one. Hit that one.
Goes something like this.
And also, thank you for being such a big supporter and fan of the CFL and myself personally.
He's actually going to drop out this week for sure.
Oh my god!
We're
You
not
know
even
what? Play
a
that
minute in.
video all you want. Makes me think of the 0-2 Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I can do this all day.
How great
Oh.
is the CFL this year? 0-2 for Winnipeg, and the Riders are 2-0. Like everything's great in Riderville right now. It's a beautiful time in the CFL. I'm so happy right now.
That's one thing with the CFL. Like every year is different, but this year's so sweet right now. And by all means, this could change in a couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, I fully expect it to backfire on us.
And people like Bomber fans are already throwing bombs at us, saying that, "Oh yeah, you guys are going back to 2013 form." I'm like, just wait, just give it a minute. Like, pump the brakes here.
Yeah.
Have y'all seen Twitter for the last 5 years? We get these 2 weeks.
Yes. Bomber fans have been unbearable. It's our turn at their expense right now. Anyway, this is the Piffles podcast, your Saskatchewan Roughriders fan podcast. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening wherever you download your podcast, watching on YouTube, watching on SaskTel Max TV on demand. Thank you very much. Piffles podcast is brought to you by Dairy Queen on Elphinstone Street and Sask Drive in Regina. I don't know. You can give us a follow on Twitter at X or on X, whatever it's called. Steve called it Twitter. Now
It's Twitter.
all this stuff I've learned from Elon Musk now is it's gone now. Thanks, Steve. We're on X
welcome.
at Piffles Pod. I'm at Real Alex D.
I'm at Safamod.
And as always, I do not need nor want your pity follows at Greg on Sports. I got a respectful follow this week. See,
And
that's how
I
you
got-
do it, people. That's how you
And-
do it.
And I got the pity follow out of that too.
Let's see.
So I will take your pity follows. Sure, why
He
not?
already followed me, so suck it.
So let's we're on Facebook as well, facebook.com if you're still using the internet that way. And of course the website pifflespodcast.com. Let's talk some Rider football, some 2-0 Rider football. Let's get to the opening kickoff.
It was that or the Strevler video again.
I would have preferred the Streffler video.
That's what I.
Steve actually would have dropped out though.
The odds would have been high, but then I remember again that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are 0-2. I can and he's looked awful in the process. Can barely get the single yard he's in there for. So bring it on. Let's. I can do it.
All right. Well, we'll have some more fun at the Bombers' expense in a little bit. We're here to talk Riders. We're here to talk about the Riders beating the Ticats on Sunday, 33-30, jumping to 2-0. And thank you, friend of the show, Rob Vanstone, for pointing out for the first time in Rider history, the team won back-to-back road wins to start the season. So has never been done in 114 years of this team playing games. They start the season 2-0 with both those games on the road. I don't even know how
wish-
to respond to that. That's just
I wish I could say I'm surprised, but I've been a fan of this team long enough. It doesn't surprise me.
right. But this game was another roller coaster of emotions for us Rider fans. And I I don't even know where to start with this game. Do we want to start on offense? Do we want to start talking about the defense? Do we want to go quarter to quarter? How do you guys want to approach this? Because I have so much to say about this game.
Honestly, I think we should start with the defense. That way we can, like Marcus Sayles, just put it behind us and move on to the good stuff.
Has that ship sailed already? Because
Oh.
my lord,
Debut to forget for Marcus Sayles. A lot of zone coverage and a lot of blown zone coverage from the Riders against the Ticats. I mean, when you're giving up 380 passing yards and big long touchdowns, something's not going well. And Marcus Sayles, he looked lost. Now, that's watching the game on TV. Obviously, the film tells differently, and we don't know what the schemes are, but from what it looked like from my seat, it was bad for Marcus Sayles. He didn't know
it was
whether
obvious. It was obvious that Bo was thrown at him. Like there was no doubt about it. They were definitely finding where he was, and they were going at him. Whether it was going at him or going at whoever was behind him, they were definitely targeting whatever side of the field that Marcus Sayles was on, and it did not look pretty.
Honestly, you could look at that game and assuming our eyes are correct, he was responsible for 17 points out of the 30 that the defense gave up because there was the two blown coverages that led to touchdowns, and then he bid on a short route and got beat over the top on a second down late in the first half as well that led to a Ticat field goal. Just an awful start. We got a good glimpse at maybe why BC was willing to let him go.
and the way that they shuffled the roster, putting Nelson Lacombo at safety after a really good game against Edmonton. Lacombo, I don't want to say looked lost, but he definitely didn't have the best game this past week in Hamilton, which makes me wonder what they're going to do this week. As we record this, there's been no practice yet this week. So I'm really curious to see how that secondary shakes up. If they're going to keep it the exact same way and keep the ratio kind of the way it is, or if Jordan or Jaden Dalkey gets back to the safety spot and they shift Lacombo back out. I don't know, but I don't want to see them flip-flopping every single game. That's just not going to be good overall. And I mean, Marcus Sayles is a former All-Star. In 2022, he was an All-Star, so it's not like it was super, super long ago. Give him the benefit of the doubt, just his first game with a new scheme and, only a week and a half of practice, maybe. But I expected a lot better from the secondary.
I think also we got to remember that Mace is a rookie head coach, and Sayles does. You're right. He brings in a resume, and unfortunately, Dalkey had that brain fart in the game against Edmonton, and I'm assuming that was part of the reason why. Because that defense played fairly good against Edmonton. That secondary,
They did, yes.
So there was no real reason to mess with the secondary unless you were making there was an example out of them, but Dalkey had to take the L for putting the team in a bind. So maybe switch back to that Edmonton secondary because it played very solid against Hamilton. They definitely are going to have to do something this week because if not, Bo's going to pick them apart again. That's the worst part about coming back these back-to-back games. They've already seen the team in a very short period.
Honestly, anytime you can turn around and make Bo Levi Mitchell look like prime middle of his career with Calgary Bo Levi, something's wrong. And I agree with you, Greg, that the defense looked so solid in the first game against Edmonton. They were bend but don't break. They didn't give up a lot of points. They gave up a decent chunk of yards from time to time, but there was no reason to mess with that other than to try and get Marcus Sayles on the field, which we thought they would do ahead of week 1. But I don't think it was the right choice, and I think it was pretty clear, mistakes were made.
Now, of course, the secondary gets put in a poor position because there's no pressure at all on the quarterbacks. so far from the Rider D line, and there's not many blitzes coming from linebackers. And Bo had all the time in the world last week to move around, to wait, to find open receivers, and that's my biggest concern right now with this team. Even though they're 2-0, is that we're getting no pressure whatsoever from the defensive line. Honestly, outside of the Brian Cox Jr. strip sack fumble recovery at the end of week 1, outside of that, there's been nothing. But the run defense, the D line
I was about to say
against the run, has been excellent. James Butler was held to 12 carries for 27 yards. Kevin Brown had 30 yards on like
37, somewhere in there.
yeah, on like 16 carries, whatever it was. I don't have the stats in front of me for that one, but the average is very, very low for what they're giving up on the run. And like I don't want to be too critical of them because they're 2-0. They're not getting pressure here, but they're getting great pressure here. So it's one of those, for me, I kind of, balance the good with the bad. But I'd like to see more chaos around the quarterback, because ultimately that's going to win them more games than letting the quarterback have time and pick them apart.
Like it's weird. This team is flip-flopped. They're a better passing team than running team this year, and they're better on run defense than on pressuring the quarterback, which is usually the opposite for both. So let's find the happy medium, guys, and we can go from there. But once again, I got to say, Roland Milligan,
He's a beast.
And on special teams too. Like
he was
that
part of
team,
the CFL's
he's
honor
our MOP
roll
this year. It's gonna be Trevor Harris, obviously, the way Harris is playing too. But our MVP is gonna be Roland Milligan this year because he is our most valuable defensive player right now.
There's no question this team goes as far as Roland Milligan will take them defensively. He's been lights out from game 1, and I said it last week. If Roland Milligan is healthy, we make the playoffs last year. No question in my mind, and we're seeing why. He is around the ball constantly. You will
so
never see
close
him not
to
near it.
a couple pick sixes against Hamilton. So close. There was a couple of them. I was like, he's going to get one sooner than later. But that defense, ultimately, they are making plays when it matters. How clutch is CJ Avery? I know this interception was a gift from Tim White, but still, it's a big play from a guy who it's his rookie year in the CFL. He played in the XFL last year, but this CJ Avery, which we didn't think of much going into training camp, we all assumed Adam O'Clair was going to start at that will linebacker spot for the ratio anyway. He's Avery's backup. Avery's been excellent, and I'm not going to say anything negative about Jameer Thurman because I think he's been solid, but Avery's making the big splash plays. And but this defense is just making plays when it matters. So again, I don't want to nitpick a lot of things there for this defense because they are making plays, they are winning games, and ultimately, to me, that's all that matters.
Our linebacking core, all three guys, like I can't speak highly of him over top of another. You got Revis out there playing without a helmet. You got CJ Avery like closing games, and then you have Jameer Thurman, who is just solid and laying guys out. Like I love our defense right now. I understand they're giving up yards and there's still some issues here, but I think once they get going, they're definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with.
And kudos to Riders stat extraordinaire Rob Vanstone for pointing out that Avery's interceptions in back-to-back weeks have both come with 33 seconds left on the clock to essentially seal victories. That's the kind of plays you want from guys like that, is those big plays where the game is on the line and your defense is stepping up. For some reason, despite giving up 30 points, when Hamilton got the ball back with under a minute left, I wasn't even slightly concerned. They felt like they had flipped a switch at the start of the fourth quarter again, and nothing was going to happen. They weren't giving up anything.
Well, that's the momentum train that the Riders have been so far this first couple games. I want to talk about the second quarters in just a little bit. But speaking of defense, and Greg, you mentioned him, CJ Rivas, that fumble recovery, which to the letter of the rule book was the right call by the command center because he didn't have a helmet on, and the ball, even though it was right beside him and he grabbed it, he is ineligible to participate. But what bugs me is that rules should have common sense clauses laid out. It's not like he jumped up and was trying to run and get a ball. Because if he's doing that, then yes, obviously player safety. You don't want him to take a shot in the head without a helmet, from a helmet, or like a knee or anything like that. But let's be real here. If your helmet goes down or goes off while you're going down to the ground and the ball's literally fumbled right beside you, you should be able to pick it up without it being a penalty. To me, that's ridiculous. So
Even
I think
yeah, it was a penalty, but it shouldn't have been because common sense should prevail here.
technically, by the letter of the law, if the ball hit him without him having a helmet and Lanier picked up that ball, still would have been a penalty.
would it still have been a penalty if he did not make an active motion towards it? Because I think
Good luck
that's where
proving
the line was that he made that physical motion to grab the ball. And the problem with trying to iron out some of the gray areas in that rule is, where do you draw that line? If it's lying beside you, you can grab it. Okay, well, what if it's 2 feet beside you, 5 feet, 6 feet? Where is that cutoff? And having a clear line in the sand saying if your helmet is off, you cannot participate in any way, just makes it simpler. And honestly, this is something that you're likely never going to see again. It just doesn't happen. Like, to have this happen the way it did is so unlikely that we're pulling hairs over something we'll likely never see again.
But it
Well,
changed
my-
the complexion of the game, though, because the
Oh,
Riders had
absolutely.
all the momentum. Then 2 plays later, Hamilton runs a reverse flea flicker, beats Deontay Williams deep, and then a play after that, they score a touchdown. So instead of the Riders having the ball with all the momentum in Hamilton territory, boom, they're back down another touchdown.
And honestly, kudos to Scott Milanovich for that play call immediately after they got the ball back. Just to go for the trick play and to go deep like that was they really had nothing to lose.
Oh, 100%. Because they had nothing to lose. Plus, the Riders were in the middle of what just happened mode. Like,
Yeah.
I guarantee you, the team at that point wasn't completely locked in because they were wondering what just happened. But honestly, to me, when Rivas went down with his helmet, like, that was a bang bang play. It was like one motion. At that point, it's like, yes, but I understand the point of player safety. But to me, it's just like he was already down there. The minute someone comes in there, he's getting with a helmet. Someone big hills their way in there, he's taking it right to the head anyway. So at that point, he's a part of the play, regardless, no matter what he does.
Well, and what happens too if is it still a penalty if, let's say, the exact same thing happens, but Hamilton recovers, but nobody touches the Hamilton guy, so the play is still live, but Rivas just happens to be on the ground, touches the guy's ankle. That's still illegal participation, so they could still be a penalty on that. So it's ridiculous. Like, at that point, like, just like I said, I think common sense should prevail, and there should be a but clause in the rule. But yeah,
If it happens if a turnover happens within 3 seconds, like, but yeah, it's just whatever. Hey, we won. If not, this would have been a lot spicier about how terrible the refs are and how the league is against the Riders for everything they do.
Yeah, that's very true. Let's jump to the offense, because this was the fun part for the Riders. For watching the game, Trevor Harris throwing for 390 yards, 2 touchdowns, both to Kean Schaefer-Baker, who was phenomenal. 7 catches, 109 yards, both those touchdowns. And we saw this after Sean Bain last week had 3 touchdowns. This week, it's Stearns going for 6 catches, 112 yards, and KSB going off for over 102 touchdowns. you're not going to be able to, single out one guy on this Riders roster in the receiving group and try and shut him down, because the other guys have proven that they're just going to dominate. And this is with Sam Emilus not being on the same page with Trevor Harris so far this year, only having 5 catches for 45 yards last week.
Yeah, don't tell me that, because I started MLS this week over KSB.
But he's going to break out, and Hamilton this week is probably going to be paying that little extra attention to KSB, especially over the middle. That's going to open up Sam Emilus. So this receiving, I love what they're doing with this receiving group. So Trevor Harris has had time, lots of time in the pocket, and the pass protection for this Riders offensive line cannot be understated. They've been fantastic this year. I know they gave up 4 sacks, but really, and Trevor Harris said it after the game, a couple of those were on him because he held on the ball too long and didn't throw it away. So they've been very, very good. And when he has time, he's making things happen, because Stearns, KSB, Sean Bain, Emilus, everybody's getting open, and they're big chunk plays that they're getting.
Well, and if you take Bain, because Bain went out in the first half,
At the
didn't
end
come
of
out
the
after, it didn't come out at the end of the first half, and then Joe who took over for him. If you combine their yardage from the same position, they were at like 91, 94, somewhere in their yards. So that was almost 100 yard in that one position as well. So yeah, they're spreading the ball around. It's going to be tough for fantasy to pick a Rider receiver, because it's probably going to be the one that I don't pick every week. I just know it.
I mean, the clear obvious pick is always going to be Jarrett Stearns right now. He seems to be, again, that second down target. He's going to have 5, 6, 7 catches.
That's
How
Mr.
in the
Second Down to
ever-loving
you.
hell, Mr. Second Down, thanks, Rod Black.
Yes.
How did he hold on to that ball on that 2nd and 17 with that shot to the knee?
That looked bad.
That
I
total
thought he was
elimination
done.
that he got, the high and low, like, jeez.
Like that, I thought that was a we'll see you next year type hit. And he was back on the field 3 plays later. Like, legs like Gumby just kind of folded around him and popped right back up like nothing happened 2 minutes later. But this offense, the thing I like about it, you get a guy like a Joe stepping in, and there was no noticeable drop. And he's a guy I want to see get on the roster and get on the field more, because he did not look out of place. And he looks like that big bruising receiver that you need, that can run guys over, like AJ Olette in the backfield, but having that out on a screenplay as well. Just there's an unending supply of weapons on this team.
Well, like I put on social media, on his first catch, the size, the speed, that power when he went through the
Stiff
guy.
arm. Yeah.
Like, he is going to be a problem if he can get it all figured out. Apparently he slipped down the draft boards because his route running wasn't where they thought it should be at the combine. I don't care. If you got that, you can teach routes, or you just go run far, or button hook and run a guy over, because he's going to be a problem for defenses in this league, and I cannot wait to see what he can do. But I think this Stearns thing, I think the reason why everyone was worried about him was after Philip Blake went down. And we just that's probably Blake's career if it's as bad as we think it is. So I think everyone was a little worried about Stearns after seeing that shot to the knee, and he's not supposed to bend that way.
Well, it was good to see, Jarrett Stearns back on the field. Sean Bain Jr. after the game was telling fans he's fine. He'll be good to go this week. Realistically, the only injury we got from that game, while fairly big being on the offensive line, was Philip Blake, and it looked a lot worse at the end of the fourth quarter. I thought we might be out, Bain Jr., we might be out Jarrett Stearns, and that's a lot of weapons. But it looks like we might have gotten out of that one, knock on wood, relatively unscathed.
Well, let's talk about that Philip Blake injury. On crutches, he was on the sideline in the second half. At the end of the game, had crutches, which maybe that's a good sign, because they called for the cart, but didn't go out on the cart. Corey Mace actually, was helping him back to the sideline, which when you see your head coach going out there and, picking up. I mean, it's not like Philip Blake's a small guy. There's not many, athletic trainers that are, pretty big that can be leaned on. So if head coach Corey Mace, who's, a D-line by trade, you can lean on him, that's good. But you don't really see many coaches go out there and help the player off the field. Usually they're there with the player, but they'll go back to the sideline and continue doing their job. But it's little things like that you're going to see from Corey Mace and this coaching staff. And they've been preaching that whole family thing. And it really does feel that way. But the injury to Philip Blake,
every single player on the sidelines saw Corey Mace helping Philip Blake back to the sideline. They all notice that. That's things that they see that they're going to remember about their head coach. That's another reason why players will run through walls for this guy. You can see it's a mutual respect.
Philip Blake injured, and then Ryan Sevier came in. Didn't get bowled over right away, which is an automatic improvement from last week. And honestly, the line was decent. It was pretty decent, even with Sevier in there. Be interesting to see who they bring up, whether it's Zach Fry, whether it's
Zer.
Noah Zer. Thank you. I was trying to think of who the other guy was, and then Daniel Johnson, the draft pick, who's also on the practice roster as well. So it'll be interesting to see which one of those guys gets to the active roster as the sixth man. But it seems like Blake's going to be out for a while. But the pass protection again was really good. The run blocking, it was better than week one. Not by much, but it was slightly better.
Was it better?
Well, they started out, what was it? Ouellette had 4 carries for -3 yards.
Yeah.
He ended up finishing better than that, at least. So in the fourth quarter, honestly, it really turned around, especially on the last couple drives. But again, that's a concern right now is the run game, and there's still a big focus to get the run game going, but nothing's happening. And that's why I wanted to see Frankie Hickson on the roster, just to give a different look for the run game, get some misdirection going or whatever. But I'm not sure what the plan is going forward, if it's still going to be just Ouellette and that he's the only guy who's going to get carries. But maybe this is the run game we're stuck with.
But teams are still respecting AJ Ouellette. Like,
yep.
Hamilton was loading that box quite a bit, which also helps the run, helps our air game. So even as a decoy, he's working well for us. But at some point, until they start putting up yards, teams might start getting away from that.
And I feel like the moment they start getting away from that is when he can break out. Because right now you can see it on basically every play. They're stacking the box and forcing us to throw the ball, which works to our strength with Trevor Harris in the backfield and a plethora of top tier receivers, apparently. But it feels like there's no legitimate run protection. There's nothing there for him to run through, and he's not the kind of guy that's going to make anyone miss. He's going to run through you, but you need to give him the momentum to do that. And when he's hit 2 yards in the backfield every play, these are the stats we're going to end up with.
I just want to thank Steve for teaching me the meaning of the word plethora, because it means a lot.
Boo. Boo.
Oh, God, right after Father's Day, too. Well done.
A couple other things from this game I want to bring up. Really quick, I want to mention Adam Korsak. Excellent with a 51-yard average. But how about that play by the coverage unit from Hamilton to swat at the ball when Hamilton punted, to instead of the ball going into the end zone, he takes the no yards penalty by hitting the ball near the goal line, gives the Riders the ball, 15 yards up, so close to about the 20-yard line instead of the 40-yard line, which great heads up play. And you might see more of that kind of stuff this year.
I hate it, but great play. Like, that's honestly a very good heads up play, because at that point, field position was worth more than the point. So love it, actually.
I legitimately don't think I've ever seen a guy do that in the CFL. And the fact that we've never seen it is surprising to me, because when you look at the penalty yardage, it makes sense, especially years back where no yards on a bouncing ball was 5 yards.
Yeah.
Like even now at 15, if you down it at the 2 or the 3 yard line, that's 20 yards of free real estate at no cost to your team. I think every head coach in the league would take that, unless you really, really want that single point. I expect we're going to see a little bit more of this, and I expect that the league, having seen that, might look at ways to curtail that in the future, because I don't think that's the kind of play that they want. They don't want to get into the down punt style of the NFL.
I could see the league going automatic up to the 40 if a kicking team touches the ball within like the 20-yard line or whatever it is. Like,
I think if it's intentional, if you can see that there was clear intent on those kicks where, just hangs up in the air and it bonks the guy on the back of the shoulders, maybe not. But on a play like that where you can see his intention was to down the ball inside the 5.
Steve, as we learned with Revis, it doesn't matter your intention. It has to be black and white.
Yes.
So if that guy gets down there and gets hit in the back of the head, that's on him.
Kind of like that.
You're probably not wrong.
Kind of like the ref who took the punt to the head in the Montreal game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Penalties, though. We're talking about a penalty here. 11 penalties for the Riders, 115 yards. We saw after the first half in the first game, they cleaned up their act against Edmonton. They got things going. There was only one penalty after that. Again, misconduct penalties. Holding. Can they stop holding on punt returns? We've had so many already. Big returns. One for a touchdown from Mario Alford, brought back due to holds. And they just can't seem to get that figured out. But this is something that Corey Mace is going to have to reel in really fast, because 115 yards, you're not going to win a lot of games by taking 115 yards, a football field worth of penalties every game.
The only thing I like about the misconducts is the fact that it's not the same guy twice. It's been like a rotation of players that they're rolling through, and everybody gets one. And it feels like they go off the field, and the first thing that happens is Corey Mace lights into them, and they'll never do it again. But then it's another guy and another guy. And we've seen, is it 5 or 6 misconducts already 2 weeks into the season? That's a discipline problem. Whether they're retaliatory issues or not, that is still a discipline issue.
I think, though, looking at other games, this is a focus of the league to call those misconduct penalties, because there's been a lot, not just against the Riders, but against other teams. This seems to be a definite focus on the officiating to call these plays. And teams are going to have to get in line, but it's starting to feel excessive at this point.
I just want to know what these misconducts are. I wish that the refs would explain what they are. Penalty to Saskatchewan, number 15, misconduct, 10 yards for taunting. Just that. Just give us something, because you look at the replay and you're like, well, what did he do? And a lot of the times it's going to be taunting, standing over top of a guy and just saying something, right? After a tackle or after a pass breakup, whatever it is, flexing on them, right? Like, just say that, because we're all wondering, what are they doing wrong? And then these players, they turn around and they're like, what I do? And if they don't get an explanation, now I'm sure the ref is probably explaining to them there, but we don't see what it is.
Well, and especially because there are 10 and 15 yard misconducts.
Yeah.
But there's no addition to it. There's no misconduct punching a guy. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm sure there's a better way to describe that as a penalty.
Giving him the business.
There we go.
Yeah.
Right? Like, give us something to go on. You're trying to give the fans more information, and it seems like they've pulled it all back, because I don't feel like they used to just call misconduct in the past. I feel like there was unnecessary roughness, taunting, all of these different add-ons, and now it's just everything is a misconduct penalty.
But they gotta figure out how they're gonna stop those, because this was bad in this game, and it was the whole game. It was just gotta change that. But The resilience of this team that we've seen through 2 weeks, being down double digits. First off, can they please stop getting down double digits in the first place?
Yeah.
But being able to show, I know it's Edmonton and a 0-2 Hamilton team as well, but the resilience to be able to overcome the penalties and being down and having awful second quarters. They've been outscored 25-0 in the second quarter so far this season. Everything else has been pretty good. First and fourth quarters especially, have been excellent. But it's just that middle lull of the game that they just aren't making adjustments or just not seeing things. I don't know what's going on with them, but something's got to happen. But the resilience of this team to overcome that is something that can't be understated. And this is something, both these games, if they happen with Craig Dickinson as coach, they lose probably by 20 plus points each time. They
100%.
would have given up. They wouldn't have had the leadership from the head coach to keep them focused and to want to come back and make big plays in the fourth quarter. And we saw that over the last couple of years, that the team, once, adversity hit them, they just fell down. And that's not going to happen this year. They won't be able to do it every single game. If they get down double digits, there'll still be games that they lose. But if they're still showing that fight throughout it, I'm willing to deal with that and be happier about it than, I was last year with this team.
Sure.
Yeah, just nodding. Okay.
You said you said everything I want to say. Like you're right. Like this team under Craig Dickinson would have packed it in at halftime, and they would have talked about snowboarding on the way home. It just would have been over with. Like where's the closest bowling alley? That's the way it would have been. But
Was Ottawa went bowling this year already?
At least it was at the beginning of the year and not when you need to make the playoffs. Maybe they can write down their greatest strengths on recipe cards, but just this team definitely has a different mindset. And I know, and don't get me wrong, I love the fact that they got their catchphrases. Like build it obviously is a big one this year, and apparently do not flinch. Because if I had to hear Trevor Harris say that a million times in one video after the game, like okay. Yeah, you guys hung in there, but that do not flinch. I don't think it's going to stick. Quit trying to make flinch happen.
I understood that reference.
We're old enough. We better get that one.
Yeah.
Hey, they made a musical now. It's out there.
Yeah. But anyway, bottom line, Riders win 33-30, bringing a 2-0 record home for the home opener next week. And there's a very real possibility this team goes 3-0 into the bye week. And then they get a team coming off a shorter week with Toronto, and they have a long week. So that'll be a tough little stretch with Toronto and Winnipeg within a couple weeks of each other. But if they can, I say this all the time in any sport, especially the Pittsburgh Penguins, with how, they finished last year by winning all the time and losing all the games in the beginning. Games early in the year count as much as games late in the year. They're all worth the same points. And I know the games get more important later in the year. These games are important right now. And they're winning these games. They're first in the West. And ultimately, getting those wins is all that matters. Because at the end of the day, Greg, they don't ask how. They ask how many.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
I didn't realize we're finishing each other's sandwiches now. But
And there is a realistic chance that this team could be 3-0 and Winnipeg could be down at the bottom at 0-3. And I don't care what season you're in, how good the Bombers were in the past, but a 3-game head start, 3 games into the year is a very good thing. That's what we want. That is literal perfection. If you could write out a CFL schedule, they just got to play 60 minutes of football.
I've already seen other teams go, oh, yeah, the Riders are 2-0, but they played Edmonton and they played Hamilton. Edmonton was almost well, didn't almost beat Montreal, but they were only 3 points behind Montreal at the end of the game. Like, Edmonton's playing teams tight. Edmonton's better than people are giving credit for. They're still Edmonton, and they still will find a way to lose the game.
Yeah, but they're close.
We are year 3 into a Chris Jones system here. If he doesn't win this year, he's coaching high school again next year, and then he's going to leave the kids to be a defensive consultant somewhere.
That only happened once.
So far.
Yeah, good point. Well, we'll talk other CFL here in just a moment. We didn't get to mention it last week because the Riders watched the show, obviously, and we thought it was supposed to be on Monday last week. We were hearing
Craig, buddy, like quit releasing stuff after you listen to the show.
The Riders were going to announce their 2024 Plaza of Honor class. We thought it was going to happen Monday. Didn't. Thought it was going to happen Tuesday. Was hoping it was going to happen Tuesday so we could have the names for last week's show. Instead, they dropped it on Wednesday after we recorded because, of course, they do. But 3 very, very deserving names, and 2 that I'm so super pumped about these. We'll start with the headliner, Darian Durant, a guy who I have the jersey on, or right behind me. Yeah, it's an Alouettes one, but whatever. But Darian Durant going in himself on his own accolades, not as part of a championship team, which he did last year, but getting in by himself the way it should be is I'm glad they didn't wait any longer, because I know he was back last year for the celebrations. I'm glad they're doing it again this year because no one deserves it more than him. That stadium over there on Elphinstone is there because of Darian Durant and how he turned around this team in the late 2000s.
As soon as you saw him, go ahead.
Sorry, I've known I've told the story before, but I'll never forget. First time I saw Darian Durant, it was that preseason game. He was wearing number 14.
Yep.
And I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And I'm like, this guy is going to be good. Like, I hope we find a way to keep him, because he had everything that you thought he should be as a quarterback. And then, of course, we win the Grey Cup. And then the following year, Gary Joseph goes away, and then they can't decide between him and Steven Giles. And I'm like, why am I taking crazy pills? It's obvious it should be Darian. And then they finally made him a starting quarterback, and look what happened. Like, it's like I said before, he's on my Mount Rushmore. I put him on it over Ronnie because he means that much to this franchise.
Over Ron Lancaster?
Over Ronnie?
Yikes.
I put him over Ronnie.
And it's okay to be wrong.
Okay.
No, it's not. I'm sorry, Ron. I love Ron Lancaster. I do. But for this franchise, Darian Durant means more to it accomplishment-wise and for the health of the franchise. I'm sorry, he does.
Okay.
I will say this. RIP your mentions. This
Bring
is
it.
the clip you need to clip
Bring it.
out of this show, Greg.
Oh, don't worry. I will gladly clip that out because I know I'm right on this one.
I don't think you're going to get a lot of support from Rider Nation on that one. Not to say Darian Durant doesn't belong on the Mount Rushmore. He's absolutely up there. George Reed, Ron Lancaster, Darian Durant, Jim Hobson. Done. You don't need to take Ronnie out to put Darian up there.
I'm not saying I'm taking Ronnie out. I'm saying I'm putting him on before.
No, you said instead of. You literally said replacing.
No, I said above. I'm pretty sure I said, but whatever. Regardless,
We'll clip it out.
I hold Darian in a higher regard than Ron Lancaster. If I had to pick one Rider quarterback to take, it's Darian over Ronnie.
I respect that.
Make sure clip that part, just that part. No other anything else behind it. Just if I had to take one quarterback. But going back to the Plaza induction, this was a foregone conclusion. The moment he started coming back to Saskatchewan last year, that connection, there was obviously something happened in that relationship. After 2016, we know what it was, right? Like there was no mending that fence for a while. But as soon as he came back with the 2013 team, and you saw the love he had for this place and the love that this place has for him, he was a guaranteed induction this year. And then you add in he's working with CKRM as part of their weekly show, and it's clear that he wants to be a part of Rider Nation again. And Rider Nation is much better with Darian Durant in the fold. And I hope they find ways to keep him around continuously because it's good for the team, it's good for the city.
And Durant has gone on the record on a few occasions saying he kind of regrets not dealing with Chris Jones.
Yeah, not taking that pay cut.
Yeah, just like flat out. And to be fair, in his position at that time, I don't blame him one bit for it. Like
No, of
get
course not.
paid while you can. But yeah, hindsight 2020. However, him leaving led him to take a boatload of money from Winnipeg. And he should go in for a third time into the plaza just for that.
Darian Durant's signing bonus is the inductee next year.
Next year.
And the bust is just the picture of the pen
Yeah.
that he used to sign that contract.
Yeah.
But full circle with Darian Durant going in, the guy who brought him here to Riderville is finally getting in. General manager Roy Shivers, who has been in the Canadian Football Hall of Fame since, was it 2019? Maybe it was 2021.
I was going to say it's only like 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, it might have been 2021 then. But Roy Shivers finally going in. I wish it could have been Roy and Danny going in together. I know there's good arguments as to why Danny shouldn't go in. Obviously, the most losingest coach in Rider history, but he's also second in wins and helped turn that team around as well too. So
Danny
I think
Barrett was the epitome of moderately successful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he was the poster child for it.
Absolutely. But
you look 9-9 up in the stat book. There's Danny Barrett right there.
And there was that 11-7 season where they got screwed out of a home playoff game, and a Grey Cup berth, honestly, in my mind. But anyway, Roy Shivers going in, a guy who brought a team from 3-15 that was on the downturn big time, built the core that we saw turn into a Grey Cup contender, a legitimate playoff contender every single year, starting in 2003. It was so long overdue for Roy to get in, and I'm so happy that Roy can get into the Plaza of Honor. And I really hope I do hope he is coming up here in, was it September when this ceremony is?
Yes.
Yeah.
We had to move the Thunder Supper for the Plaza. I do know that.
Yeah. So
September sounds right.
Roy going in it's perfect. I think he built that core of that 2007 team. A couple of the trades that were made to get Kerry Joseph here and Darian Durant from.
We got Kerry Joseph and Armstead in that dispersal draft.
Yeah.
Come on.
And then Tillman was able to flip Armstead for Corey Holmes and some guy named Chris Getzlaff.
Roy
deserves
everyone wants to give that 2007 team. Everyone talks about Eric Tillman and what he did and blah blah blah. And yes, Tillman did do some stuff, but Shivers set the table, and Tillman basically brought you your food. That's how it was. Shivers set that entire thing up, and yes, there were some mistakes along the way, and yes, some of that could be also attributed to Danny always wanting to play Nealon Green when he probably shouldn't have. But Roy always found very good players, especially at quarterback. Kevin Glenn, Henry Burris coming through here. Roy had a good eye for talent. It's just we could never keep it seems.
I mean, we all grew up on the Riders of the 90s where winning was an afterthought until Roy Shivers came around and showed this province that you could legitimately win football games on a regular basis in Ryder Green. The teams from the early 2000s are why a lot of the people of our generation are still fans. Because that 2007 Grey Cup doesn't happen, 2013 doesn't happen without the team that Roy Shivers built in the early 2000s. Is that you could see that foundation and that ability to aim for success that we hadn't had since the 80s. And even then, not sure we really had it in that decade, maybe a year. But it's just seeing it, it's long overdue is an understatement. The fact that he's in the CFL Hall of Fame and wasn't in the Plaza of Honor in Saskatchewan
Canadian
is
Football Hall of
ridiculous.
Fame.
Yeah,
You're going to get
yeah.
corrected on that, Steve.
What did I say?
Not CFL. It's
It's
Canadian
not the
Oh,
football.
CFL
my
Hall.
bad. Yep. I apologize. But the fact that he was in the Canadian Football Hall of Fame and not in the Plaza of Honor is absurd. You talk about mending relationships. I hope he is a part of the future of Saskatchewan again, because he belongs on that, maybe not on Mount Rushmore, but maybe in the mountains overlooking it.
Yeah, bringing in one of the first guys he brought in was Eddie Davis, and started bringing in big name free agents and made
Eddie Davis-
Saskatchewan a destination.
Well, exactly. Eddie Davis coming here proved that players could want to come to Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
Before it was, I'm in Saskatchewan until I can leave. And Eddie Davis changed that entire mentality.
And also going into the Plaza of Honor class, and I wish I knew more about him, is he was fullback Steve Molnar, Saskatchewan guy, was right around George Reed's time, running the ball as well too. And we love our Saskatchewan success stories. We cheer harder for guys from Saskatchewan that make the Rough Riders, and to see a Saski guy go out and live his dream and hear about him living his dream, playing for the team that he grew up cheering for, just elevates him that much more in our books here in Saskatchewan. But everything I've seen about Steve Molnar screams Plaza of Honor. So it's sad that he's going in posthumously, but it's nice that the accolade is still there. So very deserving. I think it's a great class for the Plaza this year.
Could
Well,
you
just
imagine the pressure of a Saskatchewan-born kid having to follow in the footsteps of George Reed? He grew up playing alongside the guy, but loving this team and having to take over the position when he retired. I can't even imagine lining up in the backfield that following season going, yep, I got this. Just that part alone is kind of cool, and that alone should put him in the Plaza.
Well, now you guys know how I feel after I came in after Furlan.
Yes. I'd say big shoes to fill, but they're probably like size 9, size 10. They're average. Yeah. All right. Well, I thought you had more to talk about. Steve Molnar.
Like Molnar is, yeah. I wish like I said, before my time, but yeah, coming in after George Reed, Steve basically covered it for me. Like, I can't imagine coming in after a generational talent like that, going, okay, guys, I got this. Like, every game you're probably thrown up in a garbage can beside your stall because, like, I'm not that guy. Like, no, but yeah, well deserved from everything I've read about him. I know Hobson had a lot of good things to say about him when he passed away. I read those the other day when reading up about him. So we love our Saski kids, and it's good to see them make it the Plaza.
Well, that was the long version of the opening kickoff presented by Kathy Feshton of
version.
Royal LePage Regina Realty. Let's jump to the Churchill Brewing Company odds and end zones. One more rider note really quick. Joe 747 Adams, former quarterback back in the day, is going to be inducted into the Black College Football Hall of Fame for his college career in the States. So that's pretty cool as well. Couple things I want to get to about last week's games, Winnipeg and Ottawa. The Bombers still suck, and it's excellent. And I'm starting to get real 2011 Rider vibes with this team, where they get to back-to-back Grey Cups and lose. Let's not forget about Winnipeg losing Grey Cups.
2011. The Riders didn't play that year.
Well, I don't know.
That must
I
have
do
been
not
the year
recall
that was
that year.
canceled.
I don't recall that year ever happening.
It did.
No, I definitely
Right.
remember not winning the Grey Cup in 2010, and
Yeah.
then 2012, 2011 didn't happen.
But in all seriousness, I am feeling vibes about this team where they got old fast and something needed to get done. And that's what happened with the Riders in 09 and 10. Yeah, they were great those years and they tailed off. They kept the same core. They didn't really bring in anybody new. No new faces emerged. And this is exactly what I'm seeing with Winnipeg this year. They got old
Well, and
fast.
the worst, what also happened in Winnipeg is they're hurt. They're dropping their starters left and right, and they haven't backfilled with guys that are ready to play yet.
But anyway, the Bombers 0-2, losing 23-19, which was even better because
Always great.
I mean that was the score of the 2007 Grey Cup. So I always love seeing the Bombers lose, but seeing them lose 23-19 just it means so much more to me. I really wish they would have lost due to the lightning delay. I just wanted them to finish that off just because.
No, that would have given an excuse.
Bomber fans were they would have been they're pretty rotten on social right now. They would have been even worse if the lightning delay from that game would have ended the game because
in fairness, I would have been worse too. I've been lighting into Bombers fans already this week. If they lost because of weather, I would have been as unbearable as they have been since 2019.
Honestly, I think you have more reason to be unbearable now because that one play that Caleros actually threw to the end zone for Schoen. Schoen thought he had it, and that play that Webb made to get across,
great play.
Like, yes, it would have been hilarious the fact if they would have lost due to a weather delay, but the fact that it just shows Zach doesn't have it right now, and if Schoen would have took one step towards the ball, that would have been a touchdown, and they would have won. But he thought, I blew my guy's gone. I don't have to worry about it. And Webb came across and just denied him. It was beautiful.
And that's now 4 consecutive games by Zach Caleros without a touchdown pass. 4.
It's in peak postseason form early this year.
You'd love to see it.
Yes, you do.
And they legitimately could be 0-3 by the time we record next week. BC is not an easy out for the best of teams, and they are not that right now.
I still want to know where this myth that Zach Caleros is the CFL's Tom Brady came from, because everyone seems to think he's the greatest of all time, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, he's not even on the top 10 of quarterbacks of all time. And I think that's even being generous.
Is he even top 10 in quarterbacks in CFL this year? Like, that's how bad he's playing right now.
He wasn't even their peak performer. Their backup quarterback was.
I just hope a punter or a field goal holder throws a touchdown pass this week, so we can add them to the list of people who have thrown more touchdown passes than Zach Caleros.
Montreal and Edmonton. The only thing I want to talk about in that game is that Edmonton now is 2-18 at home with Chris Jones. That's bad. Something needs to change there, and not just their roster. It has to be like something's got to
change the name back. Obviously, that's the reason why they're losing. That's all you ever see online.
Yeah. Calgary and BC. That was a fun game.
Sorry, I just saw your notes.
Oh, my notes about this game. Danny Austin, friend of the show. I like.
We're actually talking about this.
Great dude. Says on social media that the Stampeders by far have the best receivers in the league. No, they don't.
No.
Have you seen the Riders receivers? I'm not even saying the Riders are the best receivers in the league. But have you seen what they've done?
BC's receivers?
BC's have been fantastic. Calgary doesn't have the best receivers in the West. They don't even have the top 3. Maybe they're third. Maybe they're third in the West for receivers.
Honestly, I'd put Edmonton's receivers above them. They at least have legitimate.
When Kyron Moore's healthy, sure.
Yep.
And I would probably put Winnipeg ahead of them, even though Winnipeg sucks right now. When they're healthy, you got Schoen, Wolotarski, Dembski, their new guy that replaced Kenny Lawler, and Kenny Lawler, of course, right? So, I mean, Calgary's receivers are playing well this year. A lot better than they were last year. They were awful last year. They're playing well.
Okay.
But they're not by far.
Pop quiz
the best
hotshot.
team
Pop quiz hotshot. Who's their leading receiver right now?
in Calgary.
Yep. Through 2 games.
Clark Barnes.
Dedrick Mills.
Oh, so they have the best receiving core in the league, and their running back is leading the.
By far.
Dedrick Mills is 14. Dedrick Mills right now for yards is 14th overall. Then you go down to 20, and that's Clark Barnes. Then Mark and Michael.
Yep. By far.
By far.
And BC is their only competition for first in the West, according to Danny Austin.
We did just beat the team they lost to.
Yeah, both those teams
they
are
beat
not
Hamilton.
first in the West. The Riders are first in the West. So I'd say there's a little bit more competition. I mean, he's already writing off Winnipeg, which I'm all for, but I'm not willing to.
That's fair. I'm already there with him too. So
I'm not willing to go that far just yet. But anyway, so Danny, I know you're usually pretty non-homerish. Those are some pretty bad homer takes, Danny. So I'll keep bringing those up every time that the Stamps receivers don't do well, and when them or BC aren't first. I'll keep bringing that up every single time. They did actually look pretty decent against BC. Calgary moved the ball. Jake Mayer has been improved, and I'll give him that. I'm not a Jake Mayer fan, but he has looked pretty decent this year. They just didn't score. So
he's Trevor Harrising it. Like they're getting yards like pre this year. Like they're getting yards, but it's between the 20s, and that's it.
But it was nice to see Calgary lose. Anytime Calgary loses, it's a good day for me. So that was nice of them to lose that game to BC. The CFL announced they're going to have augmented live streams. Basically highlights the players that have the ball. We'll show their name. They'll highlight them, circles around them, whatever. They're going to give us instant stats, like how long from snap to throw, how fast the runner is, that kind of thing. But yet they still can't figure out that McLeod Bethel Thompson was a DNP on fantasy football. So this alternate stream that they're going to have, excellent stuff that we've had for about 10 years already. So nice of them to join the party. It'll look cool, don't get me wrong, but is it a big deal to you guys? Because to me, while it is, it also isn't.
Well, no. Like, yes, we've had the next gen stats that the NFL has for a while now, which also is powered by Genius. However, I think only once, maybe twice, Amazon has done a full broadcast like this, what they're talking about. I think it's a little much. I think it's going to work. It would work better if kind of like a pop-up video. Remember that from like
pop-up video from Much Music? Yeah. Yes. I watch that all the time.
I think it would be better if you all of a sudden you pop up all of a sudden the stat pops up is like Philpott ran at 23 kilometers an hour. Fine, whatever. But I think if they're actually going to do full bubbles and routes, and it's to me though, when I saw that, I'm like, the perfect play-by-play for this, Derek Taylor.
My first thought was, please do not let Glenn Suter get a hold of this stuff. That was my first takeaway. Let's go back 4 plays and see how fast that guy ran. Stop it, Glenn. Jeez.
I think honestly, I think it would be better if it wasn't a part of the actual thing. You can do the routes on the replays, whatever, but legit have like a quarter of the screen just like Cody Fajardo threw that ball 40 kilometers an hour. Like, just little facts, like keep it away from the actual gameplay, but yeah, just keep on popping stuff up. Fans will eat that up if done properly.
And this isn't the kind of thing that's gonna entice new fans to watch the game. Fans, this is gonna entice your current fans to stick around a little longer, to learn a little more, to understand it a little better. I don't think this is something aimed at league growth as opposed to continuity. I don't mind it. I think it'll be interesting. I might check it out once just to say I did. I can't see it being a regular part of a broadcast if they try to do a legitimate full game broadcast of it.
Okay, we got time for one more thing here before an enemy preview, and I'll let you guys decide where we go here. Do we want to talk about 50 Cent? Greg, I know you had the piece on Piffles
Both of these are rants for me, so it doesn't matter which one.
Or people complaining about signs being held up by players on the sideline.
Honestly, we can probably move the signs to next week because
All right.
some idiot out of Winnipeg is going to bring it up again.
Because we'll see those. Montreal will have those signs again this week, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do that next week. So 50 Cent selling out BC Place, almost 54,000 fans in attendance for the concert. A lot of them left after the concert, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. They got a cheap ticket to a 50 Cent show. Good for the league or bad for the league because only, 30,000 stayed and only 25,000 stayed till the end of the game or whatever the number was.
Well, I don't think anyone actually released any official numbers. It was just a bunch of people doing eyeball tests going,
Yeah.
oh, there's only like two people left. It's me and my buddy. But it's good for the league. Like I said, there's a reason why they're doing this. It's to get butts in seats. It's to sell hot dogs and beer and all that. And if people stick around going, hey, I paid my money. 50 did his thing. Let's see what this football game's about. Hey, this wasn't bad. Maybe I'll go again. Still, if 30,000 stuck around, that's still higher than their average last year. BC averaged 23, I want to say, off the top of my head.
Yep.
So it's still better than what their average is. So quit crapping on it and just accept it. Like this gatekeeping CFL fans have just kills me. It's a good thing. Embrace it.
I look at this and I can't see how anybody can see this in a negative light. I don't care if they sold 50,000 seats and every one of them left after the concert was done. The fact was there was 50,000 people who walked in the door to a BC Lions game and were there at least till kickoff or close to it, who saw the excitement of the pregame tailgate, who saw the fans all dressed up and ready to go, face paint and drums, and had that experience.
It's garbage
They will
that they can
remember
bring in
that.
drums, though.
Oh, I hate it.
And we can't even bring in a,
Plastic lightsaber.
yeah.
And to be fair, those 20,000 that left after probably once they saw people saying, "Hey, we bang together," probably got out of there.
The greatest newspaper ad I've ever seen. Thank you, BC Lions.
It was well done. 30,000 plus were sticking around at least till halftime, and that's a win. You cannot look at that and see a negative unless you're looking at it with a magnifying glass trying to nitpick a problem.
Won't someone think of the children, Steve?
Oh, give me a break. Have they not listened to the TSN broadcast this year where it seems like every third word is an F-bomb? It's okay. People swear.
They need to adjust those field mics because they're catching everything this year.
CJ Rivas is going to owe his entire salary by the end of the year if they keep a mic near him. But bad words are going to happen. You're around, just get over it. I can't even get into that. The idea that swearing at a football game is bad. And we lost Alex.
No, we didn't. He's in. Oh, did we lose him? There he is.
Kind of.
Maybe.
Nope.
Kind of.
No.
He's black. All right. Oh well, we're
Well.
just going to keep this going until our fearless leader and he gone.
Well, I'll take this opportunity while he's gone to throw a little tout to my trivia event on Saturday. Since we got to wait a few minutes. Saturday afternoon, 12 o'clock Saskatchewan time, 2 o'clock Eastern time. I'm hosting a CFL trivia event to try and raise some money for CFL fans fight cancer. $20 gets you in. $10 goes to the prize pool. $10 goes to the charity. And I wish I could remember the name of the charity in BC, the Michael Ciccone Foundation. Anyways, it's raising money for childhood cancer research. So $20. Come have some fun. Be less than an hour, so we'll get you East Coast folks out to your tailgate in Toronto or what have you. But we'll have a good time. 20 questions and get you out the door.
I'll be tuning in for that. And sorry about that. I looked up and I froze. No idea what happened there, but all right. Well, let's get to this upcoming week because I know we're getting pretty long in the tooth here for the show.
I got to edit this yet tonight.
That's a you problem, Greg.
Yeah.
It is a me problem.
Let's talk about this Riders Ticats game coming up. Obviously, no practices have been had yet, so we don't know about any roster changes, any updates on that. So we're going blind into this. But do you think we're going to see any kind of changes in the secondary again? Because I sure hope not. Just in the sense that they need continuity back there in the backfield.
The only change I would make is go back to the Edmonton configuration because Marcus Sayles needs a little more time with the playbook. Obviously, there's times when he like we said he looked and lost and looked back and was obviously not in the right spot. So yeah, put Lacombo back on that corner because he looked really solid back there.
Yeah, you got to get Lacombo out of safety. That just doesn't. Some guys can do it, some guys can't. And it doesn't seem like he has the nose for the safety position. But he looked fantastic as a corner. We had no issues week one from him. We were all touting him as a next big Canadian star, and then last week happened, and he had to try and defend or cover for Marcus Sayles all week or all game. That's the only change I would make is get Dalkey back at safety. And if you're gonna stick with Marcus Sayles, then keep that configuration, and Lacombo is the odd man out, which sucks. I would prefer they go back to the Edmonton configuration. I just don't think they do it. You don't sign Marcus Sayles if you're not going to play him.
BC did.
No, they cut him.
No, exactly.
Are we going to see some more man coverage instead of zone? Because they've been playing a lot of zone, and if they're not going to get pressure from that D line, any quarterback, especially a vet like Bo Levi Mitchell, who just about threw for 400 yards against them last week, is going to pick them apart. So are we going to maybe see some changes in coverage? Maybe not necessarily with, change in names, but just in the change of schemes?
I think you have to, especially when you're playing a team back to back and you win a tight game, you're going to have to throw some wrinkles at them. And a very easy way to do that is to switch your defensive scheme with a little more man to man than the zone that you played prior. So I think they have to.
I think it comes down to how much they trust Marcus Sayles to have picked up the playbook in a week. Because if they can't, then going man more often is one way to kind of protect him a little bit more and use his talent that he does have in a way that he's prepared for.
I want to see some more blitzes on like second down, on passing downs where the ball's not going to James Butler. I want to see some pressure on Bo Levi Mitchell. I want to see him have to force the throws. And we've seen over the last couple of years, once he does that, he is that washed quarterback that everybody thinks he is. So
he's Zach Claros.
Yeah. So get some pressure on him. Like I said earlier, chaos around the quarterback. I want to see that. Time for this D-line to really get going in the pass rush. And maybe I'll leave this note in for every single game until it happens. Is this the week the run game gets going? Because we were hoping it was going to happen this past week against Hamilton because Calgary lit them up. But Still nothing from this offensive line.
Nothing
We-
from what we saw last week gives me any hope that this is the week we get it going.
Unless we're up a lot and Olet is like just killing time in the fourth quarter, I'm worried about our early game run offense.
Well, I like that they're still just sticking to it. They're not
Yep.
trying to, just abandon it like we've seen over the last, like when Jason Moss was offensive coordinator, just completely abandoned the run when it was working. They're still trying. They're still going to make it a focal point, and hopefully it still continues to open up things in, the intermediate and deep routes for these receivers, because when they're getting those open lanes behind the linebackers because they're creeping up on the line, they're getting a lot of yards that way. And we're seeing Jarrett Stearns, KSB over the middle, just absolutely dominate. So if they can start getting that run game going, get those linebackers creeping up even just a little bit more, Trevor Harris is going to just be licking his chops. He's going to be ready to go on that, because as a vet quarterback, he's he's waiting for those open receivers. So I do want to see that. Well, let's get to our picks this week
We are
against
so
the spread.
bad.
Hey, speak for yourself. I went 4 for 4.
Not against the spread, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
Spread doesn't count. I just pick winners.
The only thing we're doing is spread.
That's garbage.
Well, you're 2-6 on the season, tied
So am
for
I.
first place.
I'm number one.
no,
I'm
with me.
number one.
Yeah.
Ugh, gross.
And you guys are only in first place because I'm 1-7 against the spread this year. Awful.
Yikes.
I got the first Rider game right, and that was it.
Early CFL is such a crapshoot.
So yeah, you and me, Greg, were 0-4 last week. Steve was 1-3. So this is free money for anybody who wants to make money off the CFL.
Fade us.
Literally pick
Fade
the
us.
opposite,
Yeah, fade us completely.
especially what I'm picking. All right, week 3, Ottawa at Montreal on Thursday night. I'm gonna guess Montreal is probably like a 7.5 favorite.
I'd go 6.5.
Montreal is -9.
Ooh. Yeah, that checks
And
out.
the line has not moved much. Actually, Montreal has gained a point, so they're now -10.
I'm gonna take Montreal. I'll take Ottawa with the points.
Ottawa and the spread, actually, because Montreal didn't let Edmonton get back into it, and Drew Brown has looked actually fairly good. I actually like Ottawa with the points.
I'm going to take Montreal to cover that at home. Their home opener, they're going to be pumped because they're doing the Grey Cup banner. And Ottawa's still Ottawa. They just ran into the worst team in the league, the BC or the Winnipeg Blue Bombers last week. So BC at Winnipeg, which actually should be a pretty decent game if it's anything like the last few games that they've played against each other. I'm going to say Winnipeg's a small home favorite, -1.5.
I'm going BC 3.5.
Right number, wrong team. Winnipeg is a 3.5 favorite. Give me BC.
Have they watched the games this year?
Apparently not. That said, the line has come closer. Winnipeg is now a 1.5 favorite, but yeah, they started off as 3.5.
Yeah, give me BC and the points outright. No, give me BC outright, I guess is the way to word that.
Yeah.
I don't even need the bonus point.
I'm going to take Winnipeg to cover that. As
Whoa.
much, I hope I'm wrong. Because I'm 1-7. What do you think I'm doing here, Greg?
You're hoping for the health of Chris Strevler?
I always hope for that. But I'm taking Winnipeg for the greater good, which means that they lose.
Mighty neighborly of you.
Doing what's best for Rider Nation. Edmonton at Toronto. Obviously, Toronto, I'm going to go with like a minus. We'll go 9.
I'm going to go 7.5.
-6.
That's it. Hey,
And it is moved. Toronto is -2.
wow. Yeah, give me Toronto.
Yeah. Toronto, and I will not take any points.
I will take Edmonton with the points. I will say Edmonton keeps it close. I will gladly take 6 points with Edmonton.
All right. And the final game of the week on Sunday, of course, is the rematch, Hamilton at Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan 1.5.
Saskatchewan 4.5.
2.5.
We're right in the dead center between the two of us every
is
time.
moved to -1. So
All right. Well, give me the Riders.
Yeah, I'm taking the Riders on that one.
Riders on that one too.
So we're all taking the Riders to go 3-0 into the bye week. Hopefully that's my
over under a 50.5, by the way.
Oh, the way the defense is playing, give me the over.
Yeah, give me the over on that one.
Well, great chance for the Riders to go into a bye week at 3-0. Home opener at Mosaic Stadium should be a fun time. The happy hour is open again this year. You can bring snacks in too. They made it obvious in their article about that you can do that as long as
sandwiches.
they fit in the clear plastic bags. So as long as they fit in there, you can bring in not whatever you want, but to an extent, whatever you want.
Yeah. Don't bring a 6-pack of Churchill in a clear plastic bag.
I say you try it. Why not?
It's a barley sandwich. You said I could bring a sandwich in.
Yeah, absolutely. But should be a good game. I'm looking forward to getting out there, tailgating, the party in the park, all that good stuff. It'll be nice for a regular season game. I know it's been a month, just over a month since we've seen the team at home here in game situation, but that was preseason, and we only take that, as fans so seriously. But it's just a different vibe for regular season games. So looking forward to this game, and the Riders going 3-0 to start the season. When was the last time that happened? 2008?
Been a while.
Well, maybe it was 2014, maybe, actually.
No, we lost it one early that year.
Did we?
Yeah, we did. Actually,
they were 8. I remember them being 8-1 to start that year, though.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was 2014.
Was it 14? It was one of those 2 years.
Looking.
I'm looking right now.
No, we were 2 and
yeah. I was going to say we lost
to start the season.
Yeah, we won the home opener and lost the
next 2.
Lost it in Toronto. Yeah, lost next 2.
Oh well, how about that? And then they went on a big long streak.
Yep.
All right. Well, since 2008 when they started with 6-0.
God, that was a while ago.
Oh. Back when I used to have an afro
and a bikini.
That was only for certain games in 2007. Should break that out. That's a special event.
Don't.
Please don't.
Do not do that.
You sit in the same section as me. Please don't.
Well, I'll be up in the Havana Platinum for this.
Me too.
Oh, please do that. Please do it. It's only for Greg. That's good.
All right. Perfect. Well, I apologize to everybody else in the Havana Platinum this week. But that's going to do it for us this year on the Piffles podcast.
This year, we're done.
Did I say this year?
You did.
Well, we'll see how our next interview goes.
Yeah.
We're not recording until the Bombers win another game, so we'll see you in 2025, suckers.
Should we let the cat out of the bag right now for our next interview?
I think we tease. We do the tease.
Okay. Well,
go ahead.
I'm looking forward to a special interview we're going to do. We'll put it out. We're going to do it later this week. We're going to put it out next week. It's with a Plaza of Honor inductee who's already in the Plaza. Someone we've never actually had on the show in the history of doing it.
Doesn't do a lot of interviews.
No, not at all. I'm really interested in hearing his Rough Rider story, because he's not a Saskatchewan Rough Rider by, trade, I guess, right? Like, he is not a football player.
But his impact to the team is
second to none.
humongous. Second to none. You're right.
Probably the biggest supporter of the Rough Riders ever. Mr. Paul Hill is going to be a guest on the Piffles podcast.
I thought we were teasing it, but okay, well, let's go right with it.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Surprise!
Yeah,
Ah!
there's no prize for guessing who it's going to be, so we might as well just
I
tell
guess
everybody.
it's called
prize
mystery,
is-
Alex.
The prize is you get to listen to the interview.
Yes, exactly. So I'm looking forward to it because this should be a pretty fun interview just to get into his love of the Rough Riders and why he would continue to, I don't want to say prop the team up, but basically prop the team
Essentially,
up.
he did. Yeah.
Right. Through some very, very lean years. So I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, everyone watching and listening is going to look forward to that as well. So that'll be a bi-week thing that we put out. So should be a pretty good one. Looking forward to it. So, but otherwise, we'll be back next week talking about the Riders being a perfect 3-0, Winnipeg being an imperfect 0-3, and so much more. I'm looking forward to that as well. Piffles podcast brought to you by our great friends at Dairy Queen on Elphinstone Street and Sass Drive in Regina. Special thanks, of course, go out to Kathy Festian of Royal LePage Regina Realty and Churchill Brewing Company for their support in making this show possible. Thank you for listening wherever you find your podcasts, watching on YouTube or on SaskTel Max TV on demand. We appreciate that. This is Tyler Gilbert with Ghost Behind Your Mind.